Bitcoin and the broader crypto market seems to be in quite a lot of trouble, a lot of pressure that's currently building behind the scenes of the market as we have another weekly close. So we have a week October October close, which we spoke about previously, closing red, one of the biggest candles that we've seen in a long time, and the pressure is mounting. So in today's video, we'll talk about where price is most likely going next. We'll talk about if there's any trade opportunities and when is going to be the best time to pull the trigger. Make sure that you vote. We're currently running a poll right now, and given the sentiment within the market, it would be great to hear your guys' thoughts. Is this a shakeout, a final shakeout, or is this actual confirmation that the top is in for this crypto cycle? You can see over here, 46% of you are voting, shaking out the weak hands, and we're still looking for the next big move. We have just chop within a big range, 17% of you have voted over there, and then 33% of you are saying that it's actually starting to look like a top now. The thing is, if it is a top, just by the way, well, you're sitting only about 15% off of the highs on Bitcoin. I know altcoins might have a bit of a different outlook, but for Bitcoin, still not a bad place if you think that the top is in to theoretically exit, because the next move, if it is going to be towards the downside, will be violent. And we'll talk about that as we'll talk about, should the top be in? Where would you be looking at for this cycle low, right? And I'll show you what I think, at least. So let's get into it. Banter bubbles over here. Most of the coins down quite a lot. ASTER up slightly. This has got a lot to do with CZ, right? CZ came out, full disclosure, I just bought some ASTER today using my own money. Bought about just over $2 million worth. Because the price is traded, or just under $2 million worth. There you go and see he bought 2 million ASTER over there priced at about 91 cents. It did cause a big pump over there. We'll have a look at the ASTER chart as on. We'll talk about what that means for price. Is it a good time to get in? Should you follow CZ? He's only tweeted about, publicly purchasing things with his own capital a few times. Bitcoin, BNB, which he says over here, I bought some BNB in the first months of its TG 8 years ago and held all of it, except for spending some of it, and then now ASTER. So does CZ have the influence to continue this price move towards the upside? I think it's going to definitely depend on the broader market, what the broader market does. But I think for the longer term, it is definitely a good vote of confidence. Somebody that I think still has some level of credibility, despite that he went to jail, of course, but he still holds some weighting in terms of credibility within the space. I think as a new coin, a lot of people are probably offsides over here. We'll talk about that, right? We'll look at that over there. The rest of the market, though, down quite significantly. Weeklies are down. Is it a bad omen that you started to see dino coins like Dash running 67% on the week, right? That we can also talk about that. So there's a lot to look at today. We'll start off over here on the Whale Trades website. You can see the skew is starting to spread a little bit more and more, which is what we wanted to see as price came down. The real thing that we've been looking at over the last couple of weeks, probably the last 3 to 4 weeks, has been we want to see a bigger skew develop. We want to see Bitcoin hold above $100,000, and then there may just be opportunity, but the time is officially running out. Basically, I would say that if you don't see price starting to run within the next 2-week period, and you don't confirm a major low within the next 2-week period, then unfortunately you have to tick number 3 over here, which is going to be looks like the top is actually in, right? I'll explain a little bit further. There's always a bullish case, a bearish case, and then the realistic case, which is somewhere in between the two. So fear and greed probably going to reset later today and mark down. What else do we have? Liquidations. Okay, liquidations haven't picked up that much. We're not over the billion mark. If we start to spike above $1 billion, whilst getting that skew negative 6, 7, 8% around there, whilst holding above $100,000, that would be a key indication that maybe the guys voting in the first camp over here are correct, right? So again, there's a case for both the bulls and the bears. If you're bullish, you probably want to see this be a shaking out the final weak hands. And in order to confirm that, what you probably need to see is a more heavy skew in favor of the short. So in other words, negative 6, 7, 8%, whilst the fear comes down quite significantly, whilst the total liquidations in the 24-hour look-back period spike over 1 billion, with the majority of those liquidations being longs getting taken out, that starts to create the environment where maybe, just maybe, you could find a bottom. The good news is that, well, the last couple of days, the daily exchange volume has started to round out, right? So you're starting to get that little bit of a curl. Remember, the other thing we had been looking for is multiple negative weeks in a row of negative ETF flows, right? So ETF outflows is what I should rather say. And we have kind of got that, right? Look at the daily over there. If you look at ETH over here, same story. Let's just quickly see ETH on the weekly. There we go. Multiple weeks in a row, consecutive weeks of negative ETF outflows. Now, there's a couple of catalysts that could turn price. One of which is going to be later on today. I believe it is today. Let's just quickly check on our calendar. We have the PMI data coming out. That is 7 p.m. my time. It depends where you are in the world. So probably it's going to be about midday within the US. That could be one potential catalyst. There's a couple of other catalysts that we can talk about around the Trump shenanigans, right? Remember, we spoke about on, was it Friday or Saturday? You got dealt the Trump the Destroyer. I can't remember what that card was. Trump the Destroyer card, right? The liquidity drainer, taking a lot of the liquidity out the market. So I'll show you what may pivot within the markets later on this week that could keep that hopium alive. We know November is typically one of the best months, best performing. Obviously, we've opened this towards the downside, as you so often do in the start of November, but this is going to be a long month ahead, and this is currently your outlook. So this is where I wanted to start to showcase and build a picture for you know, if you did actually confirm and see that this was in fact a major top, which I do want to remind you, you have your cup and handle formation. There it is on the monthly scale, and you hit it to an exact T, right? We've spoken about this for months now. You hit it to an exact T, cup and handle, broke out, measured move has been complete, and therefore the risk to reward for higher prices is in a way starting to diminish, because how much higher will the cycle go? Well, even if you're talking about 140, 150, 160, maybe even $200,000, well, it's better to wait for confirmation that the trends on the lower timeframes are shifting back up to get back in. Oh, there it is. Matt with 1T says, Donald the Drainer. That was it. Donald the Destroying Drainer. That was the card that you guys have been dealt. So what I'm essentially suggesting over here is that just blindly buying every single dip is probably a dangerous strategy, because if this is in fact the top, which it lines up with the measured move of the cup and handle, then in my opinion, you'd probably see something play out like this, right? So if this is the top, my expectation would probably be that you're going to sell off down to, you know, anywhere around here. You have this cluster of support, previous resistance, price consolidated for a few months, ran back up, came back to test more or less within that region. So I would say you'd probably come down, test that zone, which is going to be about $70,000 to $74,000. Then you'd probably rally up, you know, into early January. Maybe everyone will say that, you see, we told you, lengthening cycles, super cycles back on, and we're going to new highs. But that's probably what would lead into a complacency bounce. And then I believe that you'll probably sell off for most of 2026, and you'll find a bottom in between the 0.786 and 0.886 Fibonacci retracement levels, which gives you a price point between 28,000 and 39,000. So somewhere within there, that's, in my opinion, the super bearish case scenario. That's how it would play out. So we can screenshot this, and if I'm right, we'll publish that and cycle it around all over X and Twitter. And if I'm wrong, well, I deleted it now, and I'll screenshot that part of how I deleted it, and we'll never speak about this again. So why am I talking about those numbers, right? How do I get this level? Well, actually, if you have a look back in the prior, part of the cycle, let's just quickly turn some of these off so it doesn't confuse us. But if we have a look over here at, there we go. The 2000 and this is the cycle that established the low in 2018, rallied up all the way to the end of the cycle in 2021. Well, if you have a look at that, where did it find support? Exactly in that super fib, right? Between the 0.786 and the 0.886. Bitcoin then found a bear market low, $15,588-ish, and obviously rallied into, well, the next cycle. So let's close this one off, and we can have a look at the one before that. And if you look at the one before that, which established the low all the way here in 2015, rallied up to the new highs, where did it find its bear market low? This 0.786 and 0.886 fib. So coming into that 3,156 region. And so you can continue this. We don't have that much data points, but nevertheless, that is where I am pulling those numbers from. So again, if I'm correct, in about a year's time, I'll I'll make sure to timestamp and circulate this. So let's continue. We're going to play out both the bullish and the bearish case scenario. We'll talk about what needs to happen for each of those to play out. But right now, you're getting a fourth time breakout of the USDT dominance, which I did highlight in Whale Room. I already mentioned this on Sunday, right? I do give updates over the course of the weekend as well. And we spoke about the USDT dominance coming in for a fourth attempt breakout, which oftentimes does lead to continuation higher. So I said, yeah, the bounce will take you to equal high resistance, which probably breaks out on USDT dominance because it's your fourth attempt, and 4 times equals a very high probability breakout. And that is essentially what we're seeing right now. So unless this is going to be a fake out, if we start to close over here, the interesting part is I took a very conservative measured move based off of the expansion over here. And that conservative measured move actually lines up exactly with the horizontal resistance, which if you look towards the left-hand side is coming in at 5.87%. That's for USDT dominance, which means if this chart is moving towards the upside, unfortunately, it's going to create damage within the crypto market, right? The rest of the market is going to be under a lot of pressure. But remember, I still have some golden nuggets for you, so don't go anywhere. If you're a bull, I'll show you what you need to see happen, which will unwind this whole thing, right? Reverse this thing and hopefully get you bullish again. But at the end of the day, we're simply tracking the trend of high highs and high lows, and this is a bullish chart formation, which is why we expect that it would probably break out. And we said that in order to get swing long, which means you're going to hold positions for weeks to months with size, well, in order to get swing long, we wanted to see this level taken out. Now, if we start to confirm these candle closes above the breakout level over here at the equal highs, which is coming in at this yellow line at 5.11%, if we do that, then we can start to raise the bar. And we can say, well, there's our new invalidation. Now we just want to see price break below 4.88% to get swing long, right? Holding positions for longer periods of time. So that's the USDT dominance. That's what we're looking at over there. And how this could line up for a potential shakeout. If you are clicking the button that suggests shakeout, well, this is what you want to see. I covered this already last week. We said we have the high of the range capped at $126,296 marked in yellow on the top right. And then we have the low of the range, which is the previous month's high and low, coming in at 103,516. And what I said is what you may see is an environment where you sweep all the way down below this level to create a swing failure pattern, which simply means you go below that level and then you quickly snap back and recover back above, as per the little arrow. Now, if you do that, that creates a bit of a hopium case. And I'm going to just guess that if this does happen, it's going to line up with some of these other factors that we've spoken about. What are the factors, right? I want to make things always as absolutely crystal clear as possible for you to give you a high value video. So you guys taking time out your day, I want to give you a high value video. So what you need to see, the sweep below here to coincide with some of those other factors, such as, right, maybe potentially, I don't think it's going to be today's economic event with the PMI, but there is other data that's coming out later this week, which may coincide with some of the other things I'm about to speak about, right? So in terms of technicals, you want to see that sweep of that low with the ETF outflows, which is what we've got, with the daily exchange volume still attempting to grind higher, so it doesn't actually drop off over here, with an increase in 24-hour liquidations, of which the majority of those should be longs getting liquidated, and the liquidation number should be over 1 billion, with the fear and greed going further into fear, with simultaneously the long to short ratio, which you can see right now is actually skewing even further than when we started this video. We want to see 6, 7, 8%, somewhere around there. Those are the other factors that we're looking at, right? Now, let me just, before I lose track over here, line it up with this, right? We have the current shutdown, government shutdown, which says over here we'll have by far the greatest economic impact on record. But whatever, let's not worry about that. What we're more interested in is if you get an announcement that the government shutdown is being lifted, which coincides with all of the trading factors that we're looking at, the data points that we're looking at, while simultaneously you get some trade war resolutions, things like that, tariffs, etc., get lifted, that may bring some short-term optimism back into the market, which you can see over here. This is a whole long post over here from Trump But he says next week's case on tariffs is one of the most important in the history of the country. And he says a whole bunch of other stuff. You can go and read it. I'm just simply looking for what could be a potential catalyst to save the bulls. So structurally, what you'd be looking at is that sweep below, the reclaim with everything I've just mentioned, with simultaneously, let's go back onto this chart over here. We need this one over here, a bull moon, which is about to print. Okay. So don't give up hope yet. There's still a tiny little bit of hope, but it is looking bad. It's not looking good. So it's not looking good, bruv. It's not looking good. But this is someone shorted their pants. This is terrible news. Don't push too hard, right? That will happen otherwise. Okay, so that is what we're essentially looking for. I think the main thing that I'm going to be focused on is going to be the USDT dominance, because this is vitally important. And right now it does suggest a bit more pain. But if that big move up leads to more pain, which coincides with everything that I've just outlined, well, that could be an opportunity, right? That could be the final opportunity. And then you can talk about maybe it is in fact a shakeout. While all of this plays out, everything we've just discussed, what we really want to see is we want to see Bitcoin holding up above $100,000, which coincides over here with the 50% fib level taken from the low to the high, which coincides with the 50 simple moving average, which is rising but slowly starting to roll over there. And it's a psychological number. So we got 3-in-1 factors. But you have to be very careful, very cautious. Why? Because I told you all of last week, if you don't get a strong reaction from the bulls on last week's close, which you did not, it closed below the 21 EMA, it's going to start to look like a bearish order block. A bearish order block is where you see 3 or more candles closing in close proximity to each other. And the higher the time frame, the more reliable the setup, which usually follows with a very strong sell-off towards the downside. Okay, therefore, what should you do? You should wait to only long when strength comes into the market. That's probably what I would do. I wouldn't try and catch any falling knives over here. I wouldn't, personally, I'm not long on the market. I would just wait, A, for lower levels to come, or B, to reclaim certain levels to flip the structure back towards the upside where things do start to look a little bit better. Also, with all of this being said, you do have the DXY, which has hit essentially, I mean, it could have come a little bit lower, but you can see that monthly candle, we're on a monthly chart over here for September, looks like a major reversally looking kind of month. And if this does continue towards the upside, it's going to create pain within the market. And there's your weekly structure for USDT dominance, which is why you want to focus on this daily, because the daily, if it does meet the measured move up at 5.87% and you get a high time frame close there, well, 5.87% breaks this downtrend. And, you know, then things can start to move up aggressively. And you're also going to get the inverse, right? The inverse on the weekly scale between Bitcoin on the weekly and USDT on the weekly. It's the same thing. This becomes a bullish order block when you're closing 3 or more candles next to each other in close proximity. That little consolidation equals an order block, which suggests that a big move is coming. All right. Okay, so I think we've made it very clear. We're not even close to done yet, right? I just wanted to give you all the valuable and important information. And if you appreciate this, please do smash the like button. And also, I did see questions about you guys trying to get into into Whale Room, into the Discord. Guys, it is closed. It's closed. Officially, it's closed. If you want to join, you're going to have to join the waiting list. There will be a promotional opportunity that's going to line up somewhere around Black Friday, and that's going to be truly the last chance to get in. But you cannot access it now. You can't get in. You can join the waiting list, and then we'll see based on how many people join. The reason we did this is because we want to have a tight-knit group of highly educated, well-versed traders to go along the journey with us into whatever comes next, right? Because we're late cycle, at least in our opinion. Okay, cool. Let's move on. So there is our weekly, keeping it dead as simple. As long as you're below the 21 EMA and it's angled towards the downside, it's out. Cash position, if you get back above it and it angles back towards the upside, you can start to get long once again. So another thing that we had been looking at for months now is the RSI on the weekly time frame, which you can see has come into this level. It actually closed below, right? It actually closed below over there. But either way, it's still a good thing in terms of a reset. The only problem is that the reset is taking really long, which is why you have to entertain the possibility that if you do lose some of those key levels, like $100,000, that the top is probably in at that point. Because when we look at the other corrections that we had over here, you expect as the bull market progresses, the corrective phases become shorter and shorter, not longer. So you go 38, 9, which 8 and 9 is almost the same. 5, this should have been very short. If you're going to mark up aggressively, this should have been like, 3, 4, 5. Now you're talking about 84 days in a correction. Yes, you did make another high over here, but I'm counting the main corrective phase from this level because it lined up with volume. It also lined up with a daily bearish engulfing candle at the highs. This is where I truly started to become super cautious on the market. And ultimately, this therefore begins to look a little bit more like distribution. We're not there yet. It's not over yet. There is the last gasp of air, tiny bit of hopium still left in the market as per the factors that I've highlighted. Potential salvation brought by a government shutdown and the end of tariffs lining up with some of the other technicals. So don't forget that. Don't forget this over here, right? Very, 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 very important to look at. Alrighty, one more thing. Let's just quickly see what's going on over here. MACD is still coming down aggressively. Let's just look at the 2-week scale. 2-week scale is probably still coming down. So yeah, there we go. Still crossed down. The 3-week, I think we got the close for that. And did we get the close? 3 weeks. The 3 weeks has reset. Yeah, I feel like there should be more days there. But anyway, that's only 2 weeks. But either way, 3-week has crossed down, right? Which is not a good thing. The 3-week has crossed down. What about the monthly? What's going on in the monthly? Monthly, by the time the monthly crosses, remember, it is too late. Okay, by then you're in the bear market. It's too late. So pay attention to those things. We don't have any confirmed crosses. What I covered all of last week is I said I wouldn't be a wise ass. Remember how many people I had to fight in the comments last week? We fought with people every day except for Friday. Was the only day I had to fight off trolls, right? And part of what I was saying was that you want to wait for a reclaim of the mid-range. You can see this range nice and clear, right? You got a little deviation of the high, deviation of the high, deviation of the low. You got maybe a potential another deviation coming into play, but either way, this is your mid-range. And you always have to play that game. Is this a ranging market or is this, a trending market in the form of either higher highs and high lows or lower highs and lower lows? Well, right now, yes, it's still range bound, but if this is the start of a downtrending market, then that would have been your high, that would have been your low, this would be your lower high, and therefore you're now probably coming into your lower low, which means either way, your safety came into place if you could reclaim 116,391, and that's what we said. Just be very cautious until you can get back above that level, because that is your mid-range and it's your previous lower high. So you'd want to see something like that. And what we specifically said is look at the profile of the volume. The volume had been diminishing on each of the attempted pumps, right? Each of the attempted pumps, the volume gets lower and lower and lower. And that's a massive warning sign. So the inverse of that is to get back into safety, we do need to see a few more days in a row with volume rising. Now, maybe you lose these lows, and then that volume, as the next attempt up, the volume starts to rise. We'll deal with that when we get there. The message is still clear. It's too dangerous, in my opinion, to just blindly long over here. Unless you're a low time frame trader, right? That's fine. If you're a low time frame trader and you're taking, entries on the 15-minute or hourly, a whole different story. You should be looking for longs, right? It's a different story, completely different story over there, which we'll talk about in relation to the Monday range when we get there. Right now, you're below your RSI pivot level. That means your daily RSI is going to continue towards the downside. You do have a lot of support that's coming into play over here, as per what we discussed on the weekly. Your liquidity, which I want to see on the weekly as well, but on the daily, you got not that much. It's not that much. It's under 10 million. We look for more than 25 million to be significant on the daily. Let's just see the weekly. The weekly, 80 million. Yeah, not bad. But for the weekly, we also expect that this can go up a lot more, like 250, 300 million. You start to talk about serious liquidity. The market is short. Of course, it's being dominated by the shorts. As you can see over here, the skew is 4.46%. And that is well reflected as well as per high block capital. Negative, 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 negative. Every single major thing we're looking at. Interestingly, even ASTER came out negative this morning, even despite CZ's attempted pump over there. I think it's a little bit sketchy. He's still credible, but a little bit sketchy to make a tweet on a weekend to say that I bought on a Sunday, like when the books are thin, right? Why are you doing that? Anyways, if CZ is watching, Maybe you can let us know. Anyway, so we got negative over here. This creates the opportunity for a short squeeze, but only if all the other things that we're looking at line up. All the factors that we went through, right? All the things, the different metrics that we're looking at over here with the news-driven data that might be coming out as a potential catalyst, we need to see that coincide with further negative funding over here to open up the possibility of a short squeeze. It's always possible that it could happen from here, but it's all about the probability, right? You got possibilities and probabilities. We like possibilities, but we like it when it's a high probability possibility. Okay. A lot of things, a lot of poetry going on in this session today, but that's what we want, right? That's what we want to see over there. So if we look at the total cryptocurrency market cap, not good. It's again hanging below 3.63 trillion. That's a very important level to hold. And I always have to wonder when you see the Dino coins running, is that the warning sign, right? Okay, we got total 2 as well still coming down. Again, I'll just wait for signs of strength to come into the market. We've spoken about this for weeks. For me, the real cutoff was this weekly close. This weekly close, I said it's possible that they could run it in the first week of November. Remember, I've said this. I've said that I prefer to see it saved before the end of October going into November, but it's possible that maybe it comes a week later and I'm just a little bit impatient, but I'd rather be impatient than aggressively long, holding on to a knife's edge, and at any moment that line could be cut, right? So right now, still looking sketchy. You need to recover certain levels over here on total. On others, it's just bleeding out. It's weak, lower lows and lower highs. So I'm always looking for opportunities for you guys, and there are opportunities out there. We have ETH BTC, which is coming into key support, so that's one bit of hopium. We have the ETH chart over here with still a potential long that's developing. One of the coins that we identified on Saturday was Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid, we said, watch for the potential bump and run. It broke that trend line, came up aggressively, and everyone said, no, it looks like it's going to go now. I don't think we're going to get the level. But as you can see over here, it's come very, very close. Your hourly is still bleeding. The hourly is still bleeding out, low lows and lower highs. But if you start to recover now back above the 50% level, that's taken from the low to the high of this range, then this would be one trade setup where you could start to look for longs. Okay, this is, again, I want to be clear, not for swing traders. This is not for buy and holds, investors, anything of that sort. This is for shorter term traders that know exactly what they're doing. You know, if you start to put in a bit of a move over here, break some of that structure over there, throw back into the 50, you can start to look for longs over there. Basically, you'll just be raising it like this, right? Stops will go under those recent lows. Alternatively, otherwise, what you're going to be waiting for is for price to come down into that golden pocket. We've marked out this as an area of interest due to that order block that led to the big price move towards the upside. So our invalidations are basically below that order block. We don't want to break below this. And there's extra confluence because you have the 0.618 and 65 FIP. So if you can see something like this and then get some signs of reversal, this is going to be a much better entry, which would get you in at about $39. But don't forget the USDT dominance chart on the daily. I would definitely want to coincide any long trade setups with what this chart is doing. You need to study this chart and keep an eye on it to make sure that you know what's going on if you are going to take the Hyperliquid trade. So if you want to take this trade, first and foremost, you can have a relatively risk-free approach to taking this trade. Here it is. I'm going to let you know in the description over here. If you go to the description, we recently partnered with BitUnix, and they're giving you $400 for free. So how do you get a risk-free trade on, right? Well, first click that link, sign up to BitUnix if you want, deposit $2,000, they'll give you $400, take the $400 and enter into Hyperliquid with the free $400. There's no questions asked, right? They're giving you $400. You deposit $2,000, you get $400. You don't even need to use the $2,000, just use the $400, put it on whatever, 5x, 10x leverage, whatever makes you happy to justify the risk. You got a 3% move over here. So you can put in whatever. You can put in 30x leverage. And therefore, if price moves against you, you'll just get liquidated on the $400. Okay. I'm trying to give you guys as many opportunities as possible. Maybe it flies, maybe it doesn't. If it stops you out, you lost nothing. You lost your free $400. If it runs, well, you're in the money, right? Huge trade. Okay. So those are one of the opportunities that I found for you guys. We should look at other things like ASTER as well. So let's just maybe go on to not the weekly, but the daily. And let's have a look at ASTER given CZ's tweet. Anything interesting going on over here? So the way I would usually deal with something like this is I like to assess the abnormal candle and establish where the equilibrium is, which is going to typically be 50% of that candle. So let me just mark it off exact. And we'll mark off that 50% level. There we go. And you have back tested into that, which is the first good sign. The thing is that he did this in an illiquid market on a Sunday. Okay. So what you want to see is a bit of a range develop over here. Typically what you would see is if it is going, if let's call it the attempted pump worked, the tweet on a Sunday to get the liquidity back in the market or in thin books, and you get the price move up. My expectation is that you'll hold at that mid-level. So this has created a higher high, but it's, you know, based on artificial kind of tactics. You did put in a higher high over there. So I'm looking for a high low to develop over here, but it will take a little bit of time. Again, use the context of things like USDT dominance on the daily, but I kind of want to see a bit of a high low develop over here. If that can happen, you know, maybe in a few days' time, this will begin to look like a bull flag, big price move up, consolidates within that trading range. It means that you establishing your trades around that 50% level, which is at that also psychological $1 zone, right? So you want to see this level hold. Again, in my opinion, this is a short-term trade idea. It's not for long-term investors because of the risk within the broader market. All right. I'm checking the comments over here, by the way, guys. So we're going through things bit by bit, but that's one of the things, right? What else? Let's actually go to ASTER over here and just have a look at it, what the momentum oscillators look like on the daily. Interestingly, yeah, that did create a green dot. Okay, let's go on the lower time frames like the 12-hour. Still got your green dot over there. Let's go on the 4-hour. Okay, red dot, red dot. So I think that also what you can do is you can wait for the Monday range to develop, which means you have to wait for the confirmation of today's close. So wait until tomorrow. Monday range will be in, and then you can start to look for if you get any sweep of Monday low. Maybe that coincides with a little bit of a deeper drop on Bitcoin over here. Let's go on that weekly over here. Maybe that coincides with Bitcoin sweeping this 103,516, which becomes a biddable level, right? Bid meaning buy, right? A buying level. Okay. All right. What else? What else have we got over here? So that is done for CZ. Hyperliquid. That's why I wanted to mention this as well. Interesting in terms of the chart setup. Coming into that golden pocket as one potential trade opportunity, which you can take on BitUnix with your free $400. Top top chains in fees for the last 24 hours is again Hyperliquid. So very, very, very good. Hyperliquid up there again. Alrighty. Other thing I wanted to mention was ZKSYNC. You'll remember that about a week or two ago, we spoke about ZKSYNC. And I said that this is a potential opportunity if you're looking for a mean reversion play, like a bit of an arbitrage play, but when you're comparing something like ZKSYNC as a chain versus Polygon, and in terms of their fully diluted valuation sitting at about 2 billion versus the fully diluted valuation at the time, this was about 400, right? As you can see, the mean reversion trade is playing out. It's now at 1.1 billion. So the catch-up is taking place. Now, why is this? Well, one reason could be, of course, that it's just simply undervalued. Undervalued, the TA lined up. That's what we highlighted to you guys. It got a beautiful price move. Now what you want to do is you want to assess the trend, and it's part of privacy, right? ZKSYNC is a trustless protocol for scalable low-cost payments on Ethereum. It's powered by ZK rollup technology, uses zero-knowledge proofs, and on-chain data availability to keep your user funds safe, as if though they never left the mainnet, right? So we spoke about the privacy narrative. We saw Zcash running aggressively. We said that there could be an opportunity over there. So we got that move, right? Look, I would monitor the chart on a lower time frame than this. This is quite a high time frame analysis over here. You know, this is looking all the way into like 2027. But nevertheless, one thing that could have ignited the fire for this is Vitalik. He came out and retweeted this, right? ZKSYNC has been doing a lot of underrated and valuable work in the Ethereum ecosystem. Excited to see this come from them. So big things over there, right? For ZKSYNC, keep it on your watch list. Again, I'm more about trend trading. So if you do start to establish that trend, we didn't actually have a confirmed trend back when I spoke about this. You can see over here what the price chart looked like, but there it is. Look at that move. Beautiful stuff. Now, this will have printed a bit of an inefficiency. So you are going to be looking for a bit of a cool off. You know, it ran up to, what is the height of that? This ran up to 531 million, dropping back down to 380. Yeah, somewhere around this 350 is probably going to be a decent zone. That's about the midpoint where you want to find some support. Also, with that being said, we have also spoken a lot about Gravity, and we still have the trade on there. Still about 1,000% up. We've been farming the airdrop points over here. It is linked below. Gravity is built on ZKSYNC, right? So if you're not paying attention to these protocols, there's opportunities over there, right? So the link is there to Gravity if you want to trade there and get airdrop points. And as part of this privacy ecosystem, there's some good momentum there, I should say, happening right now. Alrighty, let's go into a couple of chart requests. Let's have a look at a few other things. We'll see what lines up. Usually on a Monday, there's not that much for us to do other than looking at the high time frame and waiting for the Monday range to develop. And then on Tuesday, we look for the trade opportunities. But you can see a lot of these coins are getting pretty heavily hit. I'm going to go into this chart. I'll go into the daily time frames, and let's just check out what's going on in these, you know, L1s. I know Zcash is not an L1, but I just put it on the top of the list because it's done so well. So I think simple invalidation on Zcash would probably be below that yesterday's week low, 365. You don't want to see that lost. So everything looks fine. Otherwise, on that, it's still strong. You have XRP still in that consolidative environment. Your range low is coming in at about 193. We spoke about this a lot. We said either you hit the range low, you look for long opportunities over there at about 193, or you reclaim at about 313. Also, guys, before I forget, I want to say one more thing. I should have mentioned this in the beginning. Remember, there's been a time change. So my YouTube video will be 30 minutes later. Just remember that. There's been time changes in the US, which affects everyone, I think, in the EU as well. Okay, Solana, you know, date with danger. 1, 2, 3, 4. Similar to 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 times into a given level increases the probability that you're putting in a sizable move. Solana 4 times into this level, many times into the mid-range, which is your yellow line. Remember that we've been looking at this as range high, mid-range, range low, which means this can get ugly. And this is why I said, like, for Solana was in the middle of no man's land. I said, personally, I wouldn't be too interested in this. You need to see more strength come back into the market. And we said, even if you did rally up over here, you're going to get a bearish retest into that order block. So it's not a great risk to reward at the moment. If anything, you know, many people will hate me for saying this. I will also tell you that from a fundamental perspective, for Q1 of 2025, the top 6 fee generating protocols, which this is one of the fundamental ways that we can value cryptos, is we can look at how much are they making in fees. And the top 6 were on Solana, but that was in Q1. Now we are in Q4 of 2025. So this is the thing about reading between the lines with certain tweets. And I said this will upset some people, but theoretically, you probably, if anything, have a short trade that you can set up, trading this down to about 111,000, because right now you need to get above today's high, basically. The high of today, the open of today, if you get above that. Otherwise, this starts to look like a bearish order block that could be leading to a downside move. Very risky environment over here for Solana. If you get a strong close and reaction towards the upside, I would still say that you need to see more price action develop over here for Solana. Okay, Sui, we also spoke about it coming deep into the $2 region. It's on its way there. Sonic just looks absolutely miserable, absolutely terrible. It just goes down. What else can you say? It just goes down, right? We have Say also coming into a key area. You probably want to see a reaction out of this very, very, very soon, because what you don't want to do is flip previous support into resistance, right? You don't want to SR flip this into resistance over here. It's going to mark down aggressively. At the end of the day, all eyes on Bitcoin, all eyes on ETH, all eyes on the USDT dominance. Those are the most important charts. And I've said now for weeks, concentrate your portfolios. Do not hold too many things. You'll find yourself in trouble. Cardano is putting in a descending triangle. Look, if this played out, it would send it to zero. So I'm not suggesting that's going to happen, but it is showing you lower highs and equal lows, which just increases the probability that that will break, and you'll probably retrace to like 33 cents. Avalanche, AVAX. So AVAX, very similar to Say, consolidating into the range lows. If that gets lost, yes, you're talking about low prices. You need strength to develop, which will take time. It's not going to happen overnight. Ton, this is what I'm talking about with Say, AVAX, etc. By the way, so let's just quickly go back to Say. I said you don't want to flip this into resistance. AVAX, you don't want to flip this into resistance. This is what happened to Ton. So Ton was once upon a time at support, failed, right? Flipped it into resistance. Now look at it, consolidating underneath previous support, which is now flipped into resistance. And yeah, I mean, it's just marking down. This could go lower. Okay, we spoke about this as well. Casper, very easy, could capitulate down to about 0.03. So I know it's not all the glorious news that you guys want today, but yeah, if you want the facts, come here. If you want the fiction and the hopes and dreams, there's plenty of places for that. Tron, still downtrending over there, not looking good. This looks like garbage, which is plasma. Pump, we took profits on this up here, which I'm very pleased about. This could retrace all the way back down to the low 0.0035. Okay, so we've gone through those. Apex, I still believe, is going to come back to this candle at 39 cents is the number. Anywhere between 29, it's in this candle, right? I believe it's going to retrace into that candle. It will take a bit of time. We spoke about that already when it was up here. Okay, I think we've covered the majors. We'll look at Tau because, you know, people have been excited about Tau. And I said I'd be taking profits on this, even if it ran higher, as you can see my little drawings. And I said the reason why is because I think that either way, you'll get a retest back into the 50% level, which is your mid-range. So now you want to see a consolidation. If you're long on Tau, basically, you know, your invalidation is going to be below Thursday's low. If you take out Thursday's low, that was your rally, you know, up into the highs, deviated the mid-range, and then it's probably going much lower. So invalidation as of today is Thursday's low. All right. We'll look at virtuals. I know it's also one that did relatively well. So virtuals, let's see how it's looking. Okay, so virtuals, I also said I would be taking profits because you have major resistance. It has rejected off of that. And I said, even if you rally up similar to Tau, you need to then defend this and flip it into support at $2 to get it higher. We can look on a lower time frame, though, to give you something a bit more precise. Look, it's possible that you'll find support over here and run. You do have previous resistance on the low time frame, which you're coming into for support. You might have a bit of a trend line that's also developing over here. So there it is, a bit of a trend line. Basically, if you take out this candle, you've done full retrace, right? That becomes your Bart-Simpson pattern. So this candle on the 1st of November, that big one, you have to stop out under that. I'll even throw in a line over here and we'll put it in, where's our colors? Red. So if you take out this level, $1.32, that's probably where you need to stop out. All right. So let's see. Okay. Go and vote. If you haven't voted, go and vote. Let's see what the votes look like now since we've laid the foundation. We've spoken about the possibilities and the potential. Understand this. The bullish potential here, just to be clear, is built on a little bit of hopium. We're talking about a bull moon, a little bit of hopium over here. We're praying on the moon to flip things. We're hoping that the tariffs fall off. We're hoping the PMI data comes out good. What was the other factor that we're looking at beyond the tariffs? Oh, yes, the government shutdown. We're hoping the government shutdown also saves price. So these things are kind of built on a bit of hopium. So votes over there. Let's see what the votes look like. We got 2,471 of you that have voted with Okay, that is about the majority of it. About 2,500 of you are live right now, if these numbers are updated correct. Is that right? Hardest, give me a thumbs up. 25, 26. And then we got like another 25 of you on X. If you're not following me on X, by the way, go and follow me. There's a link below. You can follow me on Instagram and X. I dropped a surprise Instagram post for my first fancy purchase. If you want to go and see what that is, you can go on Instagram over there. Alrighty, guys. Other than that, you know, your opportunities today, I would say assess the USDT dominance, give the bulls a little bit of slack, right? For about a week. We give the bulls slack for about a week. We're giving them one more week to save price in alignment with all these hopium factors to print a potential low within the market. We're going to line that up most specifically with this chart. Let's just find it. Very, very, very important chart. Sweeping, write that number down, 103,516. If you can sweep that level, reclaim, then we're talking, right? There's an so significant because these bearish order blocks that are forming on the weekly have the backing of momentum behind it. This is a momentum indicator. It's telling you expansion is taking place. So all in all, it's not looking good for the bulls. But if you are looking for the trade opportunity, the best that I've got is to give you 20% ROI straight away, which is your rebate provided by BitUnix, deposit $2,000. Only if you use that link below, right? It's a special offer that I had to fight and negotiate with them for a long time. You get $400. You look for the hyper liquid long that I've set up over there for you guys into the golden pocket, but it must be met with the inverse happening, some sort of a swing failure pattern on USDT dominance. You'd want to see that, right? A little bit of a swing failure pattern over there, break back below, and then maybe that gives you a hopium. And it lines up with all the other factors. So everything is on the table. I haven't withheld any information from you guys. This is genuinely what I'm looking at and what I'm waiting for. And that's it. I'll see you guys all on the next one. I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful day wherever you are in the world. I'm glad we didn't have to fight any trolls today. I'll see you all on the next one. Cheers for now.